Welcome, my name is George Pearson and I run the How to Gurus channel here on YouTube. Most of the videos on my channel are short demonstrations of the different tools and techniques that you'll find in different software programs. Right now I have several hundred of these quick videos available on YouTube. This video though is different. This is one in a series of longer project demonstrations that I'm doing that show you how to complete complex projects from start to finish, such as changing this background or adding in these swirls or changing hair color. All the images I use in these are public domain, and you'll find a link to the pictures in the description if you want to work along and follow my demonstrations. Okay, let's go ahead and move into the project. In this Photoshop project we're going to do some hair color changes. I have a picture here with a model kind of medium brownish reddish hair, and we'll do a few things. We're going to change the hair here. We're going to first start off by making the hair more red. So here it is without this little enrichment, make it a little more obviously red. We're then going to make it just a straight brown, kind of a dark brown here. We'll then go to black, and then finally we'll finish off with blonde hair. Now there's no real trick to any of this. It's just a straightforward process as long as you know the right steps to go through. The basic concept is we're going to be first making a mask around the hair so we can then easily control the hair color without messing up anything else in the image. So we'll be starting off with a mask and then simply doing some basic adjustments. For instance, on here the enriched red, we're doing a color shift. There's our mask. On the brown we're doing a value and color shift in there. So for the enriched red we're adding in more red, the brown we're taking out red, and then adjusting our values a little bit. These are all using adjustment layers and masks. For the black we're going to be again adjusting our values in here and our colors, and we'll be doing a special trick up here to bring back in some of the highlights up around the back of the head there. And then finally on the blonde, again using our mask in here, we'll be adjusting our levels and color and so forth to get that blonde effect. In this case we'll be taking out a lot of the black and leaving the rest. So there we go, pretty straightforward process, and we'll be referring back to this section over here so you can see what it is that we're doing as we move further forward. Keep it as obvious as possible, but we'll start off with a brand new image. There it is. Now whenever I do any kind of photo editing in here, I like to make a new layer, make a copy of my layer. So I'll just drag this down to the new layer button right there, make a copy of it, hide my original. That way I can always go back to my original in case I mess things up. I have that protected. So we'll start off with our copy up here. Now in this case I'm going to be separating these out into their own folders like that, making these groups, and I'll just drag this up into that group. There we go. That way I can have one group per hair color. So let's just rename this group, double click, and I'll just call this one enhanced red. We'll be adding in more red on that. What we want to do now is to go in and mask out and protect the rest of the picture, leaving just the hair available for our color shift. And we can do that using a mask. I'll just start off here, quick mask mode, create a mask over there. Now notice that the mask is white. So if we have white on here, that's going to show everything. So white is show and black is hide. So using those two, we can show or hide part of this. I can demonstrate that. Let's go over here and choose a fairly good sized brush, kind of like that. There's 100 pixels or so. I'm on the mask, as you can see here with that outline around it. That shows me that the mask is selected. If I come in here and now paint onto the mask like that, you'll see that the black is in here. Black is hiding that part of the image. So we can use the black brush to hide or protect parts of the image, and we can use the white brush to show. I'll just paint back in again here. So white shows and black hides. So we just keep that in mind as we're working, and it's pretty easy to do this. Now we need to zoom in on the hair up here, Not a bit too far. Don't want to go too crazy. Now, you don't need to be real accurate with this. Anything against this white background is going to be easy. If you had a different background in there, you'd have to be a lot more careful with the edge of your mask. But with the white, it's not that critical. And we can even start off with coming in and doing a quick selection like that. And that gives us some of the hair in there. Now we want to be using black for hiding, and I want to hide the background. So let's go back here to black and our paintbrush, and I'll just come in right along like that. All I really care about up here is just the hair. We'll be doing other parts in just a bit. So there we go. That gets that edge of the hair real nice and clean. We can get this edge of the hair right down there. Maybe a little smaller brush actually would be appropriate. Okay, so that's pretty good. Now on the inside, I'll have to eyeball this. So I'll go just a little larger brush. Notice I have a real soft brush here. Hardness is set at 0. And I want to come in. Oh, I have to deselect first. There we go. And paint into the hair line here. Now you don't have to be real careful with the edge of the hair. I went a little too far that time. Undo that. We'll try that again. Again, doesn't need to be perfect. Leave a little bit of the flesh tone showing there. That's going to be fine. That's not going to be a problem. And I'm just going to come in and paint that away. If you're painting in too fast, you can adjust that a bit by bringing down your opacity and your flow in here. I'll just pull the sides down like that, and then let's cut the ear out. So what I'm cutting out here is I'm cutting out anything I don't want to be color shifting, and then leaving in what I do want to be color shifting. I'm not going to worry again about that little bit of flesh tone around the edge. That's fine. Now once that's done, you can go here and just erase the rest of this stuff. And we're not actually erasing. What we're doing is we are creating a mask up here. Oh, went too fast on that and got rid of my little bit of hair down there. There we go. So we're creating a mask which will protect the rest of the picture. Anything we don't see is protected. And at this point I can now go for a larger brush. Let me just get right around the edge right there. Okay, so the hair is all good. I can now make a much larger brush size and then just clean out the rest of this. There we go, and you'll see why we're doing this in just a moment as we go to an adjustment layer. And make sure we're clean on the edge here. You can check by looking over here and looking where you have any white showing. You want to get rid of all of that white that you see over there in the mask. I have a little bit up along this edge, you can see there. Clean that out. There's a little bit up there. Okay, mask looks pretty good. It's masking out just the hair. Okay, so we're ready to start with our colorations now. So on our colorations, we're going to be putting in a new adjustment layer here. And go up here to the layer menu, come down to new adjustment layer. Let's put in selective color. Bring that up. You can just leave all those as the defaults. And there's our selective color. Okay, here's where this mask comes in handy. Now we have made this mask. I can actually just use the Alt key, hold the Alt key down, drag that mask up, and it copies that mask up onto our layer. So I've now copied that up here. I can get rid of the one down here if I wanted to. I don't actually need this any longer. This probably should be all white. Or I can just delete this now that I have it up here. So let's go ahead, we'll do that. I'll just drag this down to the trash can. That's no longer needed. So what we have now is the whole image visible, but we have the mask up here for just the hair allowing us to put our technique in here, our selective color technique, there it is, into just that area. So for this one we have our colors. Notice we have, you can choose any color that you want in here. It's set for reds, and to make this more red, this is our enhanced red color. I can just bring the magenta up a little bit like that, and maybe a little bit of yellow in here, and we can make her hair more red. Here's without, there it is with. This is just a slight change, as you can see, but kind of puts the punch back into the red hair. So there we go. There's our enhanced red. That one was easy. The hard part, of course, was making the mask to begin with. All right, let's now make another layer up here, and we'll do a new image as well. So here's our, just drag the group up until you see that line at the very top right above the enhanced red. That gives us our next group. Now on this one we're going to be going for our brown color. So we need to have our image again in here, so I'll just pull this down to our copy layer and pull it up into the brown. There we are. We want to have the same tools. Let's take a look at our tools quickly over here. So here we are, and here's our brown. And looking inside, there we go. You see we have our selective color right here, and we're going to be bringing our tones down a little bit, taking red out of the image instead of putting it in. And we're also going to be controlling our levels just a little bit in here as well. Okay, so back here to our working image. There we go. So let's bring in our selective color first. So layer, adjustment layer, and selective color. There we go. There it is. And just like before, we want to copy our layer mask. So hold the Alt key down, drag that up, choose yes, and that copies that mask. So as you can see, once we've done it just the one time, we can then use that over and over again just by copying it to each of our new adjustment layers. It will always be exactly the same that way. Okay, so here we are, and we want to bring out some of that magenta. You can see as I bring the magenta out, the hair looks more brown and less magenta. There's a bit of yellowish showing in here, so I can pull the yellow down a little bit. And maybe a little bit of cyan out, just a touch. And that has more of a nice brown tone to it if we pulled out magenta and yellow, leaving us the brown part of the color. Now just a little bit of a touch. We want to bring in just some of the darker, some of the contrast in here again. We can do that with the levels. Same thing, layer, and let's come down to new adjustment layer and levels right there. Choose OK. This can be above or below, it doesn't really matter. Again, you want to grab the layer mask, Alt key down, pull that up to copy that. There we go. So it only works inside the hair area. Make sure you're over here. Notice we have two buttons up here. One shows you the mask and it's the contents of the mask, and the other one shows you your actual adjustment layer. I just want to pull the bottom side here, the black, up a little bit, put a little bit more richness back into the hair, just a touch. You can see you go too far, it goes way crazy. So just a little bit of a touch on that. You can adjust the midtones in here, and just a little tweaking on that until it looks natural. And there we go. There's the brown. So pretty easy so far. So if I hide the brown, there's our enhanced red. There's the brown color. So we've given it to brown nice and quickly. Okay, let's now do the next one. I'll hide the enhanced red. And we want to go to black next. So let's set up our basic setting in here first. Let's make a new layer. And let's give this a new name. Call this one black. We want to copy our image and pull that up into our black layer. There we go. And we'll leave this open just for a moment because we'll be copying that mask again. Let's go back over here and take a look at what we're going to be doing on our black one. So here's the black hair. And in this case, we're working with our levels, as you can see right there. We're also going to be doing some hue and saturation, a little hue saturation adjustment on this. Not much, just a touch. And on the levels, we're going to be using the levels in here to really, bring this down, pull out some of that color that's in there. Okay, and then up here, this is a special deal. We'll take a look at this in just a bit. I'll show you what that's for. It's kind of a fun little trick. Now we want to bring in our adjustment layer in here, and we don't want to have the red, so we want to remove the red out of this area. And of course, we'll be using our layer mask as well on that. So let's do our new layer here, adjustment layer. Let's do the hue saturation. This allows us to adjust the color and the saturation of an area. Let's first pull our layer mask up, hold the Alt key down, drag that up. There's our layer mask. I can hide that brown stuff now. I just get that out of the way. Now all I care about is the red values. So let's look at our colors in here. We have red, yellow, green, cyans, blue, magentas. Let's go for our reds. Down here we can use this to grab colors in here. So I'll use the eyedropper and grab just kind of mid-tone in here someplace. There we go. I'll use that. And we can pull the saturation down. And that, as you can see, pulls the color out of the hair. Since we have the face masked off, we're not pulling anything out of the face, which helps us quite a bit. Now there's a little bit of a problem in here. Our mask isn't quite in tight enough on this. We're getting a bit of gray tone in there. So we're going to come back in and bring back in the mask a little bit on that. Let's go over here to our masks, click on the mask. Notice the mask is selected now. And as we know, the black hides and white shows. So I want to have a black brush. Let's bring this flow rate down pretty low here. And I'm just going to come back in and soften that up a little bit. It'll bring back a little bit of color in the hair, but that'll be okay. It will look natural. Just want to come back in and get that in there as much as we can. And again, just painting back into the edge with a low flow rate, which allows us to go slowly and carefully with this. Be a little more flow on that, so we don't overdo it too quickly. And just again, just bringing back in a little bit of this. We can go a little bit further. I'll show you another trick in just a second. Put that right there. There we go. And we'll bring that a little bit further in. Okay, so that gets our edge nicely. Now if you want to go a little further on this, for instance, up in here there's a little bit of scalp showing through, and over here we could come back in and actually put in a little bit of color into those areas on our mask in here and paint back in a little bit of this with another layer. But first let's get our black color adjusted, then we'll come back in and tweak this a bit. So there's the basic color that we want. Let's now adjust the values of that color with a new layer. So you can layer and adjustment layer. Let's go for levels. You can use brightness, contrast levels, curves. Any of these will work. I'll use levels. And what I want to do here is to bring up the black level a little bit, just a touch. That darkens down my darkest darks. And then the center here, pull the midtones over towards the right, and that will darken down the midtones. Now at this point it's just a matter of deciding where you want to have, how dark you want to have the black hair go when you're adjusting those midtones. I can go clear to the side here, actually go more gray. Notice right now though that we are also changing our adjustment down here, so I'm going to need to have that layer mask back in there as well. So let's just get this where I want it. Close that down. Come down here. Hold the Alt key down. Drag that mask up. There we go. That fixes that face again. Okay, so we have our basic black hair color in here. You can double click on this again if you want this to go more of a gray. Just move your midtones here towards the left, and that lightens it up and gives you more of a gray effect. Move it towards the right and you have a darker or black effect. Okay, let's bring back in a little bit of our color in here. We have a little bit of a kind of a grayish edge, just a touch. I'll do a new layer. There we go. And let's grab our eyedropper tool, and I'm going to grab the flesh tone right in here, which is pretty close to these areas. I'll just click there and grab that flesh tone. That thing you saw there, this is Photoshop CS6, and CS6 and newer has that little circle that shows you the color. If you're using an earlier version of Photoshop, you won't have that. I just grabbed, with the eyedropper tool, a bit of the flesh tone, and remember our paintbrush. We want to change the blending mode. We want to be blending in this paint color in here on top of this, but we want to be bringing in just the color. Now it's just off screen. Right down below here in the blending modes it says color. So there we go. The blending mode is now set to color. So now if I come in and paint with this, I can actually paint back in. It's not going to change anything else except change the color of those areas that have color in them back to that flesh tone. So we have the hair overlapping and a little bit of flesh tone back in there again, and allows us to clean out that last little bit of gray that was showing around that edge. Okay, looks pretty good. I go for a softer effect here, and you bring my opacity down and come back in a little more if I wanted to up in here, but I think we're looking pretty nice on this at this point. Now I might want to bring my values down a little bit more. Let's just check our, let's just go a little bit darker on that, I think. There we go. Okay, last thing you might want to do is come in and increase your highlights in here. You can do that with one more layer. I'll pull that above here. So this layer here, this is the flesh tone. And this layer is going to be highlights. On the highlights, we'll be using a blending mode trick again. This time I want to have a soft light. There we go. So that's soft light blending mode on the highlights layer. Put the brush over to white, and we're on our brush. There we go. Let's bring the opacity up. And that's all looking good. Now notice I can't paint at the moment here. You may run across this. That's because we're working with our masks down below here. If you see that and you can't paint, simply check your channels and make sure that you're on your RGB channel. That brings back the paintbrush again. You can see there. Okay, so we're coming back in with white. Oh, wrong color. Let me just undo that. Make sure on our highlights, let's go here to white. There we go. And soft light. And as you can see, what it's doing here is actually coming back in and painting in some white. And then we can adjust the opacity on that to kind of bring back in just a little bit of highlight. So you can see, there we go, with and without. It's a very fine little tweak. But it brings back in just a little bit of light around the edges in there. So there we go. There's our black. Let's take a look at this. Let's fit on screen. Looks pretty good. Let's bring up our original. There it is. And there is the black effect. There's the original. Whole thing looks nice. Okay, last one to do now is going to be the blonde effect. So let's make a new group in here, and I'll call this one blonde. There it is. Let's copy our image, pull it into our blonde layer, our blonde group. I can hide that background again. We're going to use a little different approach this time for the blonde hair and use a little more blending layer trickery. First off, let's start by making another copy of our main image. So I'll just pull it down to the new layer button. There we go. Let's just hide that background stuff. Okay, so I have two copies in here now, both in the blonde section, as you can see. Now I'm going to be using a blending mode on this copy on top of that copy. So let's go up here to the blending modes and come down to screen right there. And you'll see that already it has lightened up the hair quite a bit. You can see that right there. Quite a bit of lightening on that hair. And that's taking us in the right direction. There's still more to do though. We're now going to begin using those layers we've used before, the adjustment layers. So we'll go up here to Layer, New Adjustment Layer. Let's do the levels. And this allows us to adjust the levels of the values in the image. And what we care about here is going to be the mid-tone values. Pull those towards the left side and it lightens up the hair quite a bit. Put the black in a little bit just for a little bit of contrast there. So I'm doing most of my lightening up right here. You see already we're getting pretty close to a nice blonde, but there's still more to do. It's beginning to get faded out, as you can see, and the color is beginning to be just a little odd on that. We'll fix the face in just a minute. So that's looking good. You can hide that. Now at this point I could bring in the layer over here. I could bring in a matte to mask that out. We're not going to do that at this point. We're going to be doing a mask down here in just a couple of steps. So let's take this hair even further with another adjustment layer. So Layer, New Adjustment Layer, this time Hue and Saturation. Now it's a little bit dark, so I can go a little bit lighter on that hair still. I'm getting pretty close, but it's beginning to get kind of washed out, as you can see. So let's add in more saturation to bring some color back into that hair. And then it's a matter of just playing back and forth with these until we get just the right amount. Now it's going a little odd on the coloration, so I'll just do a little hue shift here, a little further to the right, just a hair. Makes it a little lighter, a little more yellow. Okay, there we go. Now let's work on the flesh tones. So we used this layer here as a screen over that layer to help us get the light hair going in the right direction. But we don't want to have that on the face. So let's come down here to the one that says screen. That's the one that's above. Let's make a mask on that. Click on the mask button. There we go. Now, as you recall, we use black to hide and white to show. So let's stick with our black and go over here to the brush. Use a fairly large brush. I have mine set at about 120 or so, and real soft on that. Make sure your opacity and flow are both at 100%. And I'm then going to come in here and just paint in on the image here. And that's going to begin to rebuild our mask. There we go. And I'll just get all this stuff taken care of. Here, everything that's down below the hair will get taken care of first. Now there's more to do after we get this finished. We'll come back and do even more. But now let's just edge it up into the edge of the hair a little bit up here. Not too much. And let's get that ear taken care of. And then there's some stuff on the side we need to fix in that earring. And then up around the back side here. Now it doesn't really matter on this white background. The white background is going to be okay in any case. But just to be nice and complete. So there we go. That looks pretty good. Let's now take this mask, this brand new one that we did, and transfer this up. Hold the Alt key, pull it up to our levels. There we go. And that looks pretty good. I could maybe come in and bring back out the mask just a little bit right in there. It's maybe a little bit on the dark side. Let's bring our brush size down just a bit. That's pretty good. Let's reverse these. And I'll come in just a little bit in there. A little too much actually. And let's just step backward a couple of steps here. maybe a little softer, a little larger, makes it a little softer brush. Let's bring our flow down a bit. Just kind of tweaking the mask right in that area. Doesn't need much. Let's make sure we're on our mask. There we go. Little tweaks. And there's the blonde hair just about taken care of. Now you want to go a little step further. Of course, you can take this and pull this up one more notch. Like that. That just helps the hair color. That's not really, totally necessary. It's a little blonder, as you can see. So more blonde there, a little less blonde. It's up to you how far you want to take that. And we can go a little further. You can do a little more adjustment layer stuff in here if you want to. But that really is our blonde hair, looking pretty good at that point. Everything else looks pretty good. Let's compare this to the original. We'll hide that and let's show the original. There's our original, and there's the blonde hair. There we go. Only real difference that we did down here was this one trick of using the secondary layer here as a screen to help get us in the right direction, and then remaking the mask at this point, and then it's using that mask. So there we go. That is changing the hair color. Let's now see how we've done. I'll show all those. There we go. So we'll hide all that. So here's the original. Went just a little more red on there. You can see just a hair more red, a little more vibrant. There's the brown effect. There's the black hair, and there's the blonde hair. I don't have a big long list of questions for this particular technique. It's really just using, as you can see here, using the layer mask and adjustment layers that allows you to go back and forth, of course, when you're doing this. And that's really the trick. Different techniques can be used. Anything which can change the hair color can be used. You can use the hue saturation, or you can use the select color. Right down there, selective color. That'll work fine. You can use that one. Use a hue saturation one in there. You can use these for adjusting the values. Different ones have just slightly different effects. It depends upon the model that you have. The different ways of adjusting your value may work better for or worse for different models, different hair styles. The only thing that I might want to mention right now, if you go over here and you're going to any one of these and you want to edit that layer mask, if you click over here, you'll frequently see that it's not selecting the layer mask. It's just selecting the adjustment layer. It's almost as if this can't be selected. There's just a trick to this. Just go over here to your adjustment layer, double click on the icon. That brings up your controls. At the top up here, you have two buttons, one for the adjustment layer that you're working with and one for the mask. So click on the mask and then click right there, and that selects the mask. So then you're okay. Also in here, you can come in and you can adjust the masks a little bit, maybe feather the edges a touch, makes them a little softer. You can adjust the density of your mask in here, and that sometimes will have a little bit of an effect as well. Not already seeing anything on this one, so that's pretty good. So there you go. Just that one little trick. Let me just show you that one more time. If you're on the adjustment layer and you're clicking over here and you're not able to select your mask, just double click on the icon. Brings up the properties panel for that adjustment. Click on that icon right there for masks, and then click on that icon to select the mask. And then again, really easy to see here. Black shows, or actually rather reverse of that, black hides your content and white shows. So white shows where the adjustment is, white controls the adjustment, and black blocks the adjustment. Okay, so there we go. That's how to change hair color. Thank you for watching this special Photoshop photography project video. Don't forget to subscribe so that you will get first notice of new project videos in the future. Just click on this link right here where it says subscribe here. You can get all 12 project videos in this series along with 26 special videos demonstrating the tools and techniques that I used in these projects by clicking on this link right down here. And then thank you again for watching this training video.